Greetings and welcome to week 6. This is the week where you get to choose the book you're going to purchase and read for this class. The book that we're reading together, Universal Design for Learning, is online and it's free, so yay. I think I've talked to a fair number of you. You seem to be enjoying it. There's a ton of content. The videos are really helpful. So it's they've designed it as universally designed for learning as they could at that point in time when they were doing that. I am recording here from my den, so the lighting is of course great. Okay, so the 3 books, I'm very excited to introduce them to you. You are going to choose one of these books to read. And I really want to encourage you, and I will say this again at the end, I want to encourage you, instead of reading with your eyes, I would prefer that you bought them on Audible and listened with your ears. There's a couple of reasons for that. It's a skill, and it's a new skill. Also, we as educators are trying to provide lots of options for our students. And if we don't understand some of those options, it's going to be difficult for us to coach them through it. So if we don't understand what it feels like to listen to nonfiction content, we're not going to be as skilled as giving advice and coaching to our students who choose to do that or need to do it. There are no quizzes, no tests. Those of you who've been with me before understand that taking risks is part of what we do, and there are no bad consequences for it. The goal of this is you're going to choose one of these books, and then I'm going to set you up in book studies in that group. So you're going to listen, read with your ears, hopefully, if you choose to do that, and just talk about your reactions to the book. The content in all of them is great. They're told in stories. I listened to all of them this summer, so I know it can be done. Plus, then you can walk your dog or, cook in your kitchen or whatever you need to do. So, book number 1, or the first book I want to talk about, is David and Goliath. This is by Malcolm Gladwell. Some of you may be familiar with him. He wrote Blink and The Tipping Point. He has a podcast right now that's really interesting. So David and Goliath, this book, it's called Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants. And it has fabulous chapters with titles such as Introduction, Goliath. Am I a dog that you should come at me with sticks? And that is a quote from the Old Testament. Oh, also, as you may have noticed in this week, I have provided PDFs of the first chapter of each book. So that's one way you're going to be able to test what you want. Also, if you go to Audible, you can download, a version of it to listen to whoever's reading it. See if because their voice may make a difference in who you want to choose. So, for example, Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath, part 1 is the advantages and disadvantages and the disadvantages of advantages. So he talks about the story of David and Goliath. He talks about people who have overcome disadvantages and makes a lot of commentary on education and our educational system. He reads the book himself. He's really interesting. Some of the things he says I do not agree with, and I just find that fascinating as well. So, David and Goliath. All right, book number 2 that I'm going to show you is a new book called The End of Average by Todd Rose. Todd Rose used to work with CAST, so he's not related to David Rose, but he worked in that group, so they know him. He's a professor at Harvard. He tells his own story of overcoming how he didn't fit in school and in other ways in life. So it's called The End of Average, How We Succeed in a World That Values Sameness. One way to preview this book is to watch his TED Talk. He has a 20-minute TED Talk called The End of Average. And he also tells that story in the first chapter of this book. It's all about how humans are not averages, and we have a problem in that we look at each other that way. So like some of the book chapters are the invention of average, how our world became standardized, overthrowing average. I kind of agree with most of what's said here. Some of the chapters are there's a lot to wade through, but you can still listen to it, you can still get enough out of it, and you can still enjoy it. So, The End of Average. And number 3 over here is called Brain Rules. And I actually read this a few years ago. Brain Rules 12 Principles for Surviving and Thriving Work, Home, and School. It's by Dr. John Medina. So he's a neuroscientist, and he tells stories about neuroscience and how that affects education, and it's really great. I read it in the summertime just on my front porch, and then I listened to it again this summer. It was really easy to listen to, and I liked it. So, like, for example, on the back, he has, most of us have no idea what's really going on inside our heads. Yet brain scientists have uncovered details every business leader, parent, and teacher should know, such as the brain's need for physical activity to work at its best. There's a picture of him. He looks total nerd central, so who doesn't like that? This book also, it talks, we talk a lot about neuroscience and universal design for learning, so I think this is a good background book too. So choose one. You have this week to choose think about that and see what you want to read, and we'll start reading them next week. Have a great week, and keep contacting me if you have questions or just want to talk.